Hi, student. Good morning. Today we are going to study topic number 19. The title is Organisms and Their Environment. In this topic, we have to discuss about the food chain and food web pyramids, and we also discuss the different nutrient cycle like water cycle is there, nitrogen cycle is there, and carbon cycle is there. So now come to the first slides. Here you can see, you know that whatever the energy that we are getting, okay, is the solar energy, and this is in the form of light energy and the heat energy. So see, energy is introduced in a biological system as light energy, which is absorbed by plants, where the sun is the principal source of energy. So see, sun, is the principal source of energy, means whatever the energy we are getting, okay, is the main source, is sun. This energy is then transferred to chemical energy and can pass to other organisms through feeding. And you also know that whatever the energy, is obtained from the sun, only 1% is absorbed by the plant, and plant convert this solar energy into the chemical energy in the form of glucose, and this process is named as photosynthesis. When the plant make their own food, then these plant are eaten by the animal, and when these animals die, they are broken down by decomposer, which return their nutrients to the soil. A food chain shows the order of energy transfer between the organism. A food chain starts with the producers, which are plants, which converts light energy from the sun to chemical energy. Organisms which feed on plants or other animals are known as consumers. Plants are eaten by herbivores, which gain nutrients from the plant that are used for growth. This consumer is then eaten by another animal which gains the nutrients from the first. Each of these organisms has its own trophic level. Consumers are classed as primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary, depending on their position in the periodic in the food chain. Now here you can see the plant. You see they are getting energy, okay, from the sun, and 1 to 5% of the sun's energy is used in photosynthesis, by which plant make their own food, because plant get energy from the sun and water from soil and carbon dioxide gas from the atmosphere. Now when this plant is eaten by the animal, as you can see in the diagram, that is rabbit, so only 10% energy is transferred in the rabbit, but 90% is lost in the environment. And when the same rabbit is eaten by another carnivores animals, that is fox, so again 90% is lost in the environment and 10% energy is transferred in the fox. So see here, the plant, as they are making their own food by the process of photosynthesis, so they are called as producers, or they are also called as autotroph. And the animals that cannot make their own food, so they are consumer. And the animals which depends on the plant, they are primary consumer or herbivores. And when this animal is eaten by the another animal like fox, so it is secondary consumer, that is that is also called the carnivores. When this primary consumer and secondary consumers are eaten by the tertiary consumer, like the lion, tiger, okay, so the energy again is transferred to the next level. And sometimes there is a question that why there is not so many energy levels, why it's like 4 or 5 energy level. Because and every time there is there is a 90% of energy is lost in the environment, and only 10% energy is transferred into the organism. So see here, after 4 or 5 trophic levels, there is no energy left. That's what there is no sixth or seventh trophic levels. So see, energy is passed between trophic levels, although this process is highly inefficient due to the variety of reasons. Now, what are the reasons behind it? See, not all animals and plant materials can be digested to gain energy from, for example, fur or and the bones. Energy is lost through the excretion and decay. Energy is used in other processes, for example, like the movement and keeping warm. This means that the organism later on in food chains gain less energy from their food than the organism earlier on. As energy is lost at each level, consequently, organisms later in the food chain must eat a larger amount to gain enough energy for survival. For this reason, there are usually not more than 5 trophic levels, as too much energy would be lost to sustain another. Because every time there is a like 10% energy is transferred and 90% energy is lost in the environment. So this is also why, because it is more efficient for humans to eat plants rather than animals, as there are more stages in food chains if the animals are present. Now, the next topic, is ecological pyramids. What is ecological pyramids? It's a representation of different organisms. Okay, in the bar of the triangle. Okay, for example, see here at the bottom, there is a big bar that is producers. So, for example, if you are studying the forest ecosystem, so there is a great number of plants. So plants are producer, and these plants are eaten by the primary consumer like herbivores. As you can see, as you go up, okay, in the triangle, so the size is reduced. So the number of producers are more than the number of primary consumers, and these primary consumers are eaten by the secondary consumer, like the carnivores animals or the omnivores. Okay, and you see the bar is reduced, and then these secondary consumer and primary consumer are eaten by the tertiary consumers, like the predators as lion or tiger. So in the bar, you can study that the bar size is being reduced because you see every time the number of organism is reduced, and the energy transferred just 10%, which is also is going to be consumed. That's what there is not, like after 4 or 5 there is no trophic levels. Now, our pyramids of number can be used to show the number of organisms in each trophic level. This is similar to the pyramids of biomass, which measures the total biomass of all the organism at each level. Our pyramids of biomass tends to have a true pyramid shape, as biomass is lost in each levels, which corresponds to the energy lost. Our pyramids of biomass, therefore, is more useful as it gives an indications of the amount of energy being passed on each stage of the food chain. Now, see here, there is another topic that what is the impact of human on the food chain. So human alters food webs through our harvesting food species and introducing foreign species to habitat. Our harvesting will damage food chain, as other organisms which consume these organisms will not have enough food to survive, meaning that many of them will die. Introducing the foreign species may have the same effect, as there is now competitions for resources, which could damage existing species by interfering with the food chain. An example of this is canned torts, which were introduced in Australia to eat pest. Due to their toxic skin, they have destroyed many native species and damaged habitats, especially water habitats where the biodiversity has been reduced. This has had a negative effect on the bird population, which preyed on animals living in these areas. This shows that when one trophic level is damaged, all that follow are also impacted as the amount of food for them decreases. Now, in this topic, there is also, some nutrient cycle. For example, the first cycle, as you can see here, the carbon cycle. What is carbon cycle? Carbon is an essential element which makes up the majority of molecules in living organism. The carbon cycle is used to show how carbon atoms move between the atmosphere and living organism. There are, basically four steps. See, the first step, carbon is present in the atmosphere in the form of carbon dioxide. And you know that carbon dioxide gas, is 0.04% is in the air. So this carbon dioxide gas, is consumed by the plant. Okay, and this process is called as photosynthesis. So carbon dioxide is taken by the plants during photosynthesis. Here, the carbon is transferred from carbon dioxide gas to other molecules such as protein and carbohydrates. Because the first compound that is made in the result of photosynthesis is glucose, that is C6H12O6. Now, after that, the glucose molecules combine together, they make complex carbohydrate. Okay, so these molecules are passed through the food chain when feeding occurs. Hence, carbon is also passed between the trophic levels. Carbon is returned to the atmosphere during respirations, which releases carbon dioxide and during decomposition. So, carbon can be trapped in dead organism where when decomposition does not occur. These organisms become fossilized over thousands of years to form fossil fuel. When this fossil fuel is burned, large amount of carbon dioxide is released back into the atmosphere. This, along with the effect of deforestation, leads to the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere increasing, which causes global warming. As you can see in the diagram, that see the carbon dioxide gas, that is 0.04% is obtained by the plant. Okay, and the process we call as photosynthesis, because carbon dioxide plant take carbon dioxide gas from the atmosphere, water from soil, and green pigment is found in the chloroplast, that is chlorophyll. So the chlorophyll absorb light, and in the presence of light, the solar energy is converted into the chemical energy in the form of glucose. When these plants, are decayed, or when these plants are eaten by the animals, so this carbon containing compounds enters into the animals. And these animals, excrete out some waste products. Okay, after that, these animals also respire. So in respiration, they release high amount of carbon dioxide gas. And also, the daytime plant, in the daytime, the rate of photosynthesis is very high, but the rate of respiration is very slow. But in the dark time, in the night time, the rate of photosynthesis is very slow and rate of respiration is very high, due to which plant also release high amount of carbon dioxide gas. Now there is another source of CO2, that is the industries. Okay, where so many products are being made, and they are releasing high amount of carbon dioxide gas. This carbon dioxide gas, again become the part of the environment. So this is how the level of CO2 is maintained in the atmosphere. Now come to the another cycle, that is the water cycle. There are basically four steps of water cycle. As you can see, that water evaporates from the bodies of water such as the lakes and rivers to form water vapors. It also is released from plants during transpiration. Transpiration is the process in which the excess water is lost by the aerial parts of plant. Now, this water vapors rises upwards and begins to cool. When it cools, condensation occurs, turning the vapor back into the liquid water, which forms clouds. So, condensation, as you also know, that is a process in which the water vapors are converted again into water. Now, when the cloud becomes too heavy, water falls from the cloud as precipitation or rain, snow, hail, etc. This water is then taken up by plants and animals or returns to a body of water so that the cycle can continue. As you can see here in the diagram, that how, like, this the water is evaporated from the wetlands, like, the oceans, rivers, lakes, and this water, converting to the vapors, and it makes the clouds. And by the condensation, condensation take place over there, and then precipitation, this water again comes on the ground, which is collected, again into the watery bodies. So this, circulation of water in the atmosphere or in the whole, like, watery bodies or uh, the atmosphere, it is named as the water cycle. Now, the last cycle, is the nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen is another element which is a key to biological life forms. In the atmosphere, there is about 78 to 79% nitrogen is there, and which is, which level is maintained. So it means that there is some activities in the atmosphere due to which, nitrogen is evolved, and in some activities it is utilized. So in this cycle, we have to discuss that which activities this nitrogen gas is utilized, and in which activities the nitrogen gas is to be released. So nitrogen is used to make amino acids, DNA, and ATP, which is a molecule that releases energy. Microorganisms are key to the nitrogen cycle, as they help to convert nitrogen to different forms so that it can be used. Okay, so basically, there are two processes in which the nitrogen, atmospheric nitrogen is converted into the nitrate. The first process, the lightning, and the second, is nitrogen fixation. And this nitrogen fixation, is carried out by some specific bacteria which live in the nodules of the plant. And these bacteria called as the nitrogen fixing bacteria. Second step, you can see the plant absorb these nitrates and use them to make other molecules such as amino acids and protein. So as you know, once the nitrogen is fixed, it is converted into nitrate. This nitrate, is utilized by the plants, and these plants, make amino acids and protein. These molecules are passed through the food chain via feeding. Nitrogen is returned to the soil in the form of ammonia when decomposition occurs, or in the form of urea, which is excreted from organism after deamination occurs. If this decomposition occurs in anaerobic conditions, which without oxygen, then denitrifying bacteria can break down nitrates and return nitrogen gas to the atmosphere. Now here you can see there is a nitrogen cycle. You can understand it very well in the diagram, that see here the nitrogen, is fixed, by some specific bacteria which we call as the nitrogen fixing bacteria. Okay, another process, as you can see in the diagram, that is lightning. Okay, in lightning also, the nitrogen react with oxygen, it make nitrate, and this nitrate is, is utilized by the plants. As you can see, these plants, are taking nitrate from the soil, and this nitrate making amino acids and protein in the body of plant, And when these plants are eaten by the animals, so this nitrogen containing compound enters into the animals. And when the animals die or the plant die, okay, this nitrogenous compound again given to the environment. Okay, and then again there is another type of bacteria which we call the denitrifying bacteria, which convert nitrate, okay, nitrate into atmospheric nitrogen. So this is how the level of nitrogen is maintained in the atmosphere. Now there is another topic, that is population, a group of organisms of the same species living together in one habitat. Okay, so means here we just talk about like only one type of a species. If only one type of species living in a particular area at a particular time, so this is called as population. But if there is a variety of species living in a particular area, so it is called as community. Now, factors affecting the rate of population growth means which factor are responsible to increase the population or to decrease the population. The first factor, is food supply. As you know that if the food is supplied to the population in a enough quantity, so the population size will increase. And if there is a deficiency of food in any region, so the population decrease. Another factor, this is predations. If the number of predators increase, so the population will decrease. And the last factor, disease can reduce the population by killing organism uh, in densely populated areas. Disease can spread quickly, thus a large proportion of the population may be wiped out, because sometime there is an invasion of some virus, invasion of bacteria, which causes the great number of organism, so the population is decreased. Now human population growth, as you can see here, that the population is continuously is increasing, as you can see even in the diagram. Okay, in 1947, 74, you see here 1980, 87. What's going on? The population is continuously increasing. 1974, it is 4 billion, and then 1987 you can see it is 5 billion, then 1999 6 billion, and 2012 it is 7 billion, and 2022 there is 8 billion, and in 2046 expected population would be 9 billions. So see here, over the last 250 years, the population has risen from just over 1 billion to 7.6 billion. There are many social economic implications of this due to the massive demands for the resources and space. As the population increases, so it requires the resources, it also requires the space. So of course we have to cut down the trees, and when we cut down the trees, so the other organism population is going to be affected. So deforestation occurs and a high amount of fossil fuels are burned. This leads to the global warming and also damage the habitat. Rapid population growth also put a strain on services such as healthcare and education, meaning that many peoples cannot access these services, which lowers quality of life. So as like the population increases, okay, so of course the resources also required. So we have to just find out some ways by which the resources are to be increased. So uh, the result is that the temperature is increasing day by day just because of the deforestation, because of the damage of the habitat. Okay, so this was the last topic of topic number 19. So now if you have any questions regarding it, okay, so my WhatsApp number is there. Okay, my email address is also mentioned here. you can contact me in my WhatsApp or email. Or also this video is available on the TikTok or the YouTube channel. So you can also uh, study the topic, okay, from the YouTube or the TikTok. Okay, so thank you very much. Bye.